Stop sugar for just 14 days, and your body starts rewriting itself in ways most people never expect. Cravings shift, energy stabilizes, and hidden processes finally reset. But there's a catch almost nobody talks about. If you understand these changes, you can control them instead of quitting too early on. Now let's break this down in a simple, powerful way. When you remove sugar, your body doesn't just miss sweets, it goes through real shifts. Some feel great. Some feel uncomfortable, but every single one tells you something important. At first, your body does not stay quiet when you remove sugar. It reacts, and the reaction can feel intense. You might suddenly think about sweets more than ever before. Foods you normally ignore start calling your name. That's not weakness, that's biology. Sugar lights up reward pathways in your brain. Over time, your brain gets used to that quick hit of pleasure. When you suddenly stop, it notices the absence immediately. It starts sending stronger signals, trying to pull you back into the habit. This is why cravings can feel overwhelming in the first few days. You may also feel a drop in energy. Not because your body can't function, but because it's used to running on quick sugar spikes. Without that fast fuel, your system has to switch gears. It begins learning how to rely more on stored energy instead of constant sugar intake. That transition period can feel uncomfortable. Some people notice irritability. Small things feel bigger than they should. Patience runs low. Again, this is part of the adjustment. Your brain chemistry is shifting. Dopamine, the chemical linked to reward and motivation, is recalibrating. Without frequent sugar hits, your brain has to rebalance how it produces and responds to it. You might even experience headaches or feel slightly off. Hydration and electrolytes can play a role here, but a big part of it is your body adapting to a new normal. For a long time, sugar may have been a regular input. Now it's gone, and your system is trying to stabilize without it. What's important to understand is that this phase is temporary. It's not a sign that something is wrong. It's actually a sign that something is changing. Your body is moving away from dependence on quick sugar and starting to regulate itself more efficiently. Around day 3 to 5, something interesting begins to happen. The intensity of cravings starts to drop. Not all at once, but noticeably. Foods that felt impossible to resist lose some of their pull. You start to feel a bit more in control. That constant mental chatter about sugar begins to quiet down. This is where many people are surprised. They expect cravings to keep getting worse, but instead they begin to fade. Your brain is adapting. It's no longer demanding sugar the same way. The reward system is resetting, and your body is becoming less dependent on that constant stimulus. By the end of the first week, many people report that cravings are no longer dominating their thoughts. They can walk past sugary foods without the same internal struggle. It doesn't mean the desire is completely gone, but it's no longer in control. And here's the key insight. Those early cravings were never a permanent state. They were a withdrawal-like response, a temporary pushback from a system that was used to a certain pattern. Once that pattern is broken, your body starts to settle into a new rhythm. If you can get through that initial spike in cravings, you reach a point where resisting sugar no longer feels like a constant fight. It becomes easier, more automatic, and far less stressful than it was in the beginning. When you regularly consume sugar, your energy tends to follow a predictable pattern. It rises quickly, peaks, and then crashes. That crash often leaves you feeling tired, unfocused, and reaching for another quick fix. This cycle can repeat multiple times throughout the day, and over time, it becomes your normal. Once you remove sugar, that pattern begins to change. But at first, it may not feel better. In the early days, you might notice dips in energy. You may feel slower or less motivated. This happens because your body is used to relying on fast, burning fuel. Sugar enters your bloodstream quickly, giving you that rapid boost. Without it, your system has to adjust. Your body starts shifting toward a more stable energy source. Instead of depending on quick spikes, It begins using stored energy more efficiently. This process takes time. Your metabolism needs to adapt, and your cells need to become better at accessing and using this steady fuel. During this transition, you might feel like your energy is inconsistent. Some moments feel fine, others feel low. This is temporary. It's your body learning a new way to operate. The key is not to mistake this adjustment phase for failure. It's actually progress. As the days go on, something important starts to happen. Your energy begins to level out. Instead of sharp highs and lows, you experience a more even, steady flow. You wake up feeling more balanced. You don't rely as heavily on snacks or sugary drinks to keep going. Midday crashes start to fade. That heavy, sluggish feeling after eating becomes less noticeable. You may find that you can focus longer without needing constant breaks. Your body is no longer reacting to sudden spikes and drops in blood sugar. Instead, it's maintaining a more consistent state. Another change is how you feel between meals. Before, you might have felt shaky or desperate for food if too much time passed. That urgency often comes from rapid drops in blood sugar after a spike. Without sugar driving that cycle, those extreme swings become less common. You start to feel more in control of your energy. It's not dictated by what you just ate or how long it's been since your last snack. Instead, it feels more predictable, more stable. That stability can make a big difference in how you move through your day. You may also notice that your mornings improve. Instead of feeling groggy or needing something sweet to wake up, your body begins to regulate its energy more naturally. This can lead to a smoother start without relying on quick fixes. What's happening behind the scenes is a shift in how your body manages fuel. It's becoming more efficient, more adaptable. It's no longer locked into a cycle of spikes and crashes. That change doesn't just affect how you feel physically, it can also influence your focus, productivity, and overall sense of control. The biggest takeaway here is that stable energy doesn't come from constant stimulation. It comes from balance. When you remove sugar, you give your body the chance to find that balance again. And once it does, the difference is hard to ignore. In the beginning, your mood might feel unpredictable. You could notice yourself getting irritated more easily. Small things start to bother you. Your patience feels shorter than usual. This can be confusing, especially if you expected to feel better right away after cutting out sugar. There's a reason for this. Sugar has a direct impact on how your brain handles reward and pleasure. When you eat it regularly, it creates frequent spikes in feel-good chemicals like dopamine. Over time, your brain starts to rely on those spikes. It gets used to that quick emotional lift. When you suddenly remove sugar, those frequent boosts disappear. Your brain notices the change immediately. It doesn't get the same stimulation it's used to, so your mood can dip. You might feel a little flat, less motivated, or even slightly anxious. This isn't permanent. It's part of the adjustment. Another factor is the shift in your blood sugar levels. When you consume sugar often, your blood sugar can rise and fall quickly. Those drops can affect how you feel emotionally. Low blood sugar can make you feel shaky, tense, or irritable. By removing sugar, you're reducing those extreme swings, but your body needs time to stabilize. During the first few days, emotions can feel more intense. You might react faster or feel like your usual emotional buffer is missing. That's because your system is recalibrating. It's learning how to regulate mood without constant external input from sugar. As you move further into the process, something starts to change. The emotional ups and downs begin to smooth out. You may not feel sudden bursts of excitement from food, but you also don't experience the same sharp drops. Your mood becomes more even. You might notice that you're less reactive. Situations that would normally trigger frustration don't hit as hard. You feel a bit more steady, more grounded. This is a sign that your brain chemistry is balancing out. It's no longer being pushed and pulled by frequent sugar intake. There's also a sense of clarity that begins to develop. When your mood is stable, your thinking often becomes clearer. You're not constantly distracted by cravings or emotional swings. This can make it easier to stay focused and make decisions without feeling rushed or overwhelmed. Another subtle shift is in your sense of control. When sugar cravings are strong, they can influence your choices more than you realize. As those cravings fade, you start making decisions more intentionally. That alone can improve how you feel day to day. Sleep can also play a role here. As your energy stabilizes and sugar intake drops, some people notice improvements in sleep patterns. Better sleep naturally supports better mood. You wake up feeling more refreshed, which makes it easier to handle stress and stay balanced. What's important to understand is that this isn't about feeling happy all the time. It's about reducing extremes. You move away from sudden highs followed by crashes and toward a more consistent emotional state. That consistency can feel unfamiliar at first, but over time it becomes your new normal. Instead of chasing quick mood boosts, your body starts creating a more stable internal environment. And when that happens, your reactions, your thoughts, and your overall emotional state begin to feel more steady and predictable. One of the most noticeable shifts happens in how often you feel hungry. When sugar is a regular part of your diet, it tends to disrupt your natural hunger signals. You might feel hungry soon after eating, even if you've had enough calories. That's because sugar can trigger a rapid rise in blood sugar, followed by a quick drop. That drop often sends a strong signal to eat again. At first, when you remove sugar, your hunger might actually feel more intense. You may find yourself thinking about food more often. This happens because your body is used to frequent input. It expects quick energy, and when it doesn't get it, it signals hunger as a way to compensate. This early phase can be misleading. It might feel like your body needs more food than usual. But in many cases, it's not true hunger, it's a response to changing patterns. Your system is adjusting to a different rhythm, and it takes time for those signals to normalize. As the days go on, your hunger begins to change in a more noticeable way. Instead of feeling sudden, urgent hunger, it becomes more gradual. You don't go from fine to starving in a short period. The intensity decreases, and the timing becomes more predictable. Another shift is how long you stay full after eating. Meals start to feel more satisfying. You may notice that you can go longer without needing a snack. This is partly because your body is no longer dealing with rapid spikes and crashes in blood sugar. Instead, it's maintaining a more stable level, which supports longer-lasting satiety. Your relationship with snacks may also change. Before, you might have reached for something sweet or quick to keep your energy up. Without that cycle, the urge to snack constantly starts to fade. You may still enjoy food, but it doesn't feel as urgent or necessary between meals. There's also a change in how your body responds to real hunger. When your system isn't being disrupted by sugar, hunger signals become clearer. You start to recognize the difference between actual physical hunger and cravings. That awareness makes it easier to make better choices without feeling forced. You might also notice fewer late-night cravings. Sugar can create a pattern where you feel the need to eat even when your body doesn't truly need more fuel. As that influence fades, those habits often weaken. Eating becomes more intentional rather than automatic. Another important aspect is how your body uses stored energy. As you move away from relying on constant sugar intake, your body becomes better at tapping into its own reserves. This can support longer gaps between meals without discomfort. You don't feel the same urgency to eat every few hours. Over time, your eating pattern starts to feel more natural. You eat when you're hungry, and you stop when you're satisfied. There's less guesswork and less emotional pull. Food becomes more about fuel and nourishment rather than quick fixes or cravings. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but it becomes more noticeable as the days pass. What starts as frequent, sometimes confusing hunger signals gradually turns into a more stable and predictable pattern that feels easier to manage. In the first few days without sugar, your thinking might actually feel a little off. You could notice slower focus, slight confusion, or that foggy feeling where it's harder to concentrate. This can be frustrating, especially if you expected your mind to feel sharper right away. There's a reason for this. Your brain is used to quick energy from sugar. Glucose is one of its primary fuel sources, and when you consume sugar regularly, your brain adapts to that steady supply of fast. When you suddenly remove it, your system has to adjust how it gets and uses energy. During this transition, your brain is essentially switching fuel strategies. It starts relying more on a steady, controlled release of energy rather than rapid spikes. But that shift doesn't happen instantly. For a short period, your mental performance can feel inconsistent. You might find it harder to stay focused on tasks that normally feel easy. Distractions seem stronger. Motivation might dip slightly. This is temporary, but it can catch people off guard if they're not expecting it. As your body adapts, something important begins to happen. Your energy supply to the brain becomes more stable. Instead of getting quick bursts followed by drops, your brain starts receiving a more consistent flow. This stability can have a noticeable effect on how clearly you think. The foggy feeling begins to lift. You start to feel more alert without needing constant stimulation. Your focus becomes more sustained. Instead of jumping between tasks or losing attention quickly, you can stay engaged for longer periods. Another change is in how your mind handles decision-making. When your energy is stable, your thinking tends to be calmer and more deliberate. You're less likely to feel rushed or mentally scattered. This can make even simple daily tasks feel easier to manage. Memory can also feel sharper. You may find it easier to recall information or stay organized in your thoughts. This isn't about becoming suddenly smarter. It's about removing the interference caused by constant energy fluctuations. There's also a reduction in mental fatigue. Before, you might have experienced moments where your brain just felt done, especially after a sugar crash. Without those sharp drops, that kind of burnout becomes less frequent. Your mental stamina improves. You may also notice a difference in how you start your day. Instead of needing something sweet to feel awake, your mind begins to feel naturally alert. That steady clarity can carry through the day without the need for repeated boosts. Another subtle but powerful shift is the quieting of mental noise. When cravings decrease and energy stabilizes, your thoughts often feel less cluttered. You're not constantly thinking about your next snack or dealing with internal distractions. That alone can create a sense of mental calm. What's happening here is not a sudden upgrade, but a gradual refinement. Your brain is operating in a more balanced environment. It's no longer being pushed and pulled by rapid changes in fuel supply. Over time, this creates a noticeable difference in how you think, focus, and process information. It feels smoother, more controlled, and more reliable than before,